In this edition of Southern Newsweek, crime stats paint a disappointing picture, but the police hope a boost in funding will turn those stats around. Over 1,000 educators unite with concerns about proposed changes to the Education Act. And two councils join forces in an effort to dispel myths and find a common ground on which to make progress. Kia ora, I'm Holly Buchanan. The latest crime statistics aren't looking good in the southern region, with increases in several types of crime. Unsolved assaults are also on the rise, with a lift in the number of sexual assaults being reported. But police say a funding boost may help to improve the stats.
Stretching the thin blue line. Statistics New Zealand released the nationwide crime figures late yesterday. The statistics for the southern region are better in some areas, including how much police are trusted, which Superintendent Lane Todd believes may be a contributing factor to the high number of sexual assaults being reported.
Yeah, certainly with the sexual offending, that is quite a concern. So what we'll be analysing that is actually what does that mean underneath that. So, is that sexual offending in the home, or is that sexual offending in a public place? And that's the sort of context we need to establish. And then once we've got some more good data behind that, then we'll be able to actually look at what prevention activities do we need to do to get that down. But as we know, any victimisation in relation to sexual offending is very serious. So we'll certainly be very focused on that.
He says police are working more closely with the community to resolve domestic violence.
Certainly with family violence, we're working a lot closely now with our government agencies, but also our non-government agencies. And there's certainly a lot more collaboration in relation to how we deal with family violence. But certainly if we look at our trust and confidence, Southern District's 82%, and that gets measured every year. And we're certainly in the top 3 districts in relation to that, and that's a positive as well.
He welcomes the recent announcement of more funding for police from Prime Minister John Key. Superintendent Todd says Southern Region Police are among the most trusted by the public in the country, which is one high statistic he's very proud of. Daryl Baser, The South Today.
The University of Otago's research vessel, the Polaris 2, has returned from a successful expedition to the Auckland Islands. Expedition leader Steve Dawson says the focus was on documenting the status of right whales, which breed in the area. The whales made some of the research easier by approaching the Polaris. Dawson says high-definition cameras mounted under drones have recorded some stunning images. The drones were also used to track and study the physical condition of the whales. Dawson hopes the footage will help researchers understand the population at the Auckland Islands and why some whale populations are recovering strongly while others are not. More than 1,000 local teaching staff have met in Dunedin's Town Hall to discuss proposed law changes. Last year, Education Minister Heke Parata announced an open consultation to reform the Education Act of 1989. The government's discussion period is now closed, but the nation's educators are far from happy.
Teachers say if you tolerate this, your children's education will be next. Organisers say 1,300 of the region's educated and affiliated staff took part in today's paid union meeting at the Dunedin Town Hall. Southern teachers are joining their colleagues from around the country to discuss changes, including what the government is calling global funding.
But the fact is, it's bulk funding, it's a dressed up version of what we had in the 1990s. Teachers and parents, schools rejected it then, and I'm pretty sure they're going to reject it again this time. If we just have to look at early childhood centres, they're on a form of bulk funding, and we're going to hear today from speakers who will tell you about the difficulties that those early childhood centres have under a bulk funding regime.
For the first time, members of the New Zealand Educational Institute and Post-Primary Teachers Association have joined forces with associated unions that represent other staff in the education sector. The PPTA believes this proposal will harm children's education.
We want good public quality education for everybody, and so this is a great time for us to get together with teachers from primary and really have a look at what the issues are around this global funding, so-called.
PPTA executive member Joe Hunter says the global funding idea has been used overseas and always means the same thing.
That's how global funding has worked overseas, in the health industry, for example. That's how it's worked in early childhood since 2009. Less money.
Education Minister Hekia Parata has defended the now closed consultation process, saying educators had a chance to discuss concerns. However, Hunter says those meetings were poorly notified.
Oh no, I really wanted to go to those meetings. I would have gone to a meeting anywhere in the country. She only invited principals and boards of trustees, I think, to go to the meetings. The one in our area was over the day that I found out it was on, so it wasn't actually widely promoted at all.
The NZEI's Paul Galter says 50 meetings are being held around Aotearoa, and organisers were pleased that 1,300 education workers came to add their voices to the discussion at the Dunedin event. Throughout the country, union members are voting to oppose the minister's proposal and then campaign to stop it. Daryl Baser, The South Today.
A pair of scientists are travelling the country giving talks as part of a program run by the McDiarmid Institute. They're aiming to give audiences a history of civilisation's material use, and a glimpse of the future is also involved.
Scientists define civilization by the dominant material of the age: stone, bronze and iron. We might now be moving into a new age, brought about by nanotechnology. Deputy Director of the McDiarmid Institute, Dr. Nicola Gaston, is travelling the country with Dr. Richard Blakey of the University of Otago to spread the word.
We're all fairly familiar with concepts of the Stone Age or the Bronze Age, and also I think in the 20th century what silicon in the form of transistors and computer chips has done for society. And so we're trying to give some examples of modern innovations and techniques in material science that might lead to new and exciting things to come.
Gaston says it's important to keep all New Zealanders up to date with research being done around the country. And McDiarmid Institute research has particular significance for towns like Invercargill.
The founder of the McDiarmid Institute, which was Sir Paul Callaghan, had a very strong vision, I suppose, that New Zealanders should be able to do world-leading science and research in New Zealand, and it shouldn't matter that you're a million miles from anywhere and even working in a small town perhaps.
There are 12 researchers giving talks at 6 locations around the country, from Napier to Invercargill. Gaston says the ideas they're discussing are of interest to many people who will be considering them for the first time.
If you think about how an iPhone actually works and all the different kinds of technology that are combined to make that kind of complicated device, and then all the kinds of really significant technologies that are used to make everything small enough so that that device can fit in your pocket, those two things in combination, I think it is important for people to have a feel for how these things come about.
The founder of the McDiarmid Institute, Sir Paul Callaghan, challenged the scientific community to give back to society. And following in that tradition, the talks are all free. Jack Conroy, The South Today.
The Dunedin City and Otago Regional Councils recently spent 2 days discussing the future of South Dunedin. They joined forces for a series of workshops. The DCC's chief executive believes the community consultation is essential for dispelling myths and finding a way forward.
Frank discussions for a way forward. Representatives from the Dunedin City Council and Otago Regional Council have held a number of meetings to discuss plans for South Dunedin as a response to last year's floods. There has been some very direct feedback from South Dunedin residents, including this man who didn't want to be named, but described himself as just a citizen, and is clearly very upset with the official response to the floods.
I've been following this for about a year now, and the response to the initial flooding was pathetic. It should have been a civil emergency. It wasn't treated as such that way. They were very slow to react.
After speaking with the people who attended the sessions, Dunedin City Council Chief Executive Sue Bidrose hopes their message is getting across.
This is the 10th meeting we've had, and people have been incredibly positive, getting information out there, telling people what went on, telling them how the system works, giving people a way of letting us know their thoughts and what they see. This has been a great. People have said that they really appreciate having that understanding, and it helps them, gives them confidence going forward. That's the point, really.
She also says they've received some very clear feedback.
There's been some really good suggestions and questions. questions about the system and questions about the future of the city, what we're investing in, things we're building. Those questions will be pulled together and we'll put them out to people's houses so that everyone's got their answers. And there's been some really good suggestions for us to think about things that we can do to improve our system and things that people want to see in South Dunedin as well, which is great.
Sue Bidrose says although some people report still being in a state of flux in terms of insurance for damages, the council's chief executive says people who attended the meetings were pleased to see plans on the table and in the more palatable video form. Daryl Baser, The South Today.
Coming up on Southern Newsweek, Dunedin primary school pupils have cause to celebrate after a weekend win. And a local ski field plans to invest millions on their new lift, the first of its kind in the country. Welcome back. A group of Whakari primary school pupils are celebrating victory in a regional language and literature challenge. The students travelled to Christchurch to compete in the Tournament of Minds, a competition without input from teachers or parents. And for the first-timers, the result was outstanding.
Whakari school pupils are celebrating their success at the Tournament of Minds competition. The group have been together since the start of the year, coming up with solutions and developing scenarios to act out. They've been working independently and for the last 6 weeks have been concentrating on their chosen discipline.
So we've done lots on collaboration, brainstorming, working as part of a team, thinking outside the square, doing lots of the challenges that they'd had in previous years to let them have a go and see how they'd get on.
It's the first time Whakari School has entered the competition and everyone involved agrees they've learned a lot.
I think they dealt amazingly well. I was so impressed with the way that they went away. They all got each other's email, they went on a Google Doc to write the script, so everybody collaborated to do that, and a lot of that was done in their own time.
Being a team player, sharing and listening was a major part of the process.
We all just had ideas and then we kind of had, I guess, a general vote/consensus about what we should do and what characters.
And from there, the outline of their production began to form.
We acted out a scenario where we had 7 characters from different genres and they had to have a food gathering, so we had a picnic in the middle of the forest.
Leading up to the performance, the young actors' nerves could have got the better of them, but they all rose to the occasion.
It was better than any of the other times we had done it, and I reckon we did really well.
The group has been invited to attend the National Tournament of Minds in Wellington in 3 weeks' time. But for now, they're happy to celebrate their success with a group dinner. Dee Karen, The South Today.
The Deep South is boasting a New Zealand first within the snow industry. Wanaka's Cadrona ski field is investing millions in a new type of lift. And for punters, it'll mean more time on the slopes.
Sliding into the future, Cadrona Alpine Resort's gearing up for the construction of a new lift that will revolutionise how skiers and snowboarders get to the top of the mountain. A $10 million chondola should be up and running in a matter of months.
It's a combined lift, so it is a high-speed lift that has gondola cabins and also 6-seater chairlifts on it.
The chondola will feature 10 gondola cabins and 40 conventional chairs. It's replacing the McDougall's lift, which has been operating for 3 decades. McIver says the chondola will transport about 2,500 people each hour and is a long-anticipated upgrade.
We can't wait for it. It's going to be awesome. It's going to help the whole mountain. It's going to decrease lift queues all over the mountain.
No other ski field in the country has the gondola cabins, which come from Europe. Cadrona staff are confident they'll not only improve the experience for seasoned skiers and snowboarders, but also assist newbies in accessing runs.
This means it's just going to be so much easier. You don't have to ski off the lift if you don't want to. You can just jump into the gondola and just breeze on up.
He says the gondola cabins will also cater to the increasing number of sightseers travelling up the mountain solely for views of the Southern Alps. Staff are planning to run the new lift year-round for mountain bikers and others wanting to make the most of snowless slopes. Construction set to start next month and be finished before winter rolls around again.
I mean, it's the way the industry here is just ramping up, and it's just getting more and more demand, so we need to keep up with the play and also just lead things from the front.
He says the Chandler will increase Cardrona's lift capacity by 150%. That'll mean less time in queues and more fun on the white stuff. Rosie Mannins, The South Today.
The southernmost Polynesian festival has been in full swing at Invercargill Stadium. Murihiku Polyfest is less than a decade old, but organisers say it's becoming one of the highlights of the southern cultural calendar.
This week, Stadium Southland is hosting more than 120 kapahaka groups from throughout the southern region. Organiser Pauline Smith of the Maori and Pacifica Cultural Trust says everything is going according to plan so far.
Running like clockwork, it's as smooth and as a leader I feel a bit redundant, which is fantastic. Somebody said that it was a bit like coming into a beehive with just rows of people going everywhere in all different directions, but just running really smoothly.
It's the 8th year for the event, which began in 2009 with a small one-day-long festival. Having been received well, it has ballooned to 5 full days and some evening shows.
I think it's become a very, very widely accepted thing here in Murihiku Southland, which is really great because we could be considered a little bit conservative, but people have really embraced it, and almost every school and early childhood centre in this region and Central Otago region come and perform. It's fantastic.
Smith says having the festival helps the performers and the spectators foster an appreciation of the Maori and Pacifica cultures, but it does much more than that.
Kapahaka is part of our national identity, it's part of who we are as New Zealanders, and when you're from Aotearoa you always feel the prickles on the back of your neck when you hear a haka performed at any event.
In total, around 6,000 children will perform at this year's Polyfest, ranging from toddlers to teenagers, and 20,000 supporters will come to the stadium to cheer them on. Jack Conroy, The South Today.
After the break on Southern Newsweek, silver medal winning sports people turn up at a southern rugby tournament and get mobbed in the process, and hundreds of people are drawn to Oamaru in the name of skin art. Welcome back. Some of the silver medal winning Black Ferns visited a Southern Under-15 tournament in Dunedin recently. The rugby stars handed their medals to fans and posed for photos before watching the tournament finals play out.
You're never too famous to help a player up. Olympic silver medal winning Black Ferns players helped an Otago girls player up after a nasty tackle while they were meeting players at a regional Under-15 tournament. The Black Ferns are on a 7-city tour hoping to inspire young women to play the game, and they found they and the weighty silver medals were very popular. Local hero, Black Ferns first 5/8 Calais Brazier, was pleased to return to a local ground.
So I started when I was about 6 years old, played for Kaikara up the hill, and played right through to under-13s with the boys. Lucky enough I made the Otago weight grade team. And then from there I went to Otago Girls and played for the high school team there. They had a pretty good side at the time. When I was 15 I was lucky enough to get picked for the Otago Spirit. And played my first game there, and then I think 2-3 years in that comp, and then I got picked into the Black Fern squad, and kind of once that happened it just took off from there.
Now one of the fully professional players, she says the women's game has come a long way since she began. Black Ferns captain Sarah Goss says the team now has a short break after 4 years of training towards the Olympics. Then they'll be hitting it hard ahead of the Dubai Sevens. She's pleased the women's code is as well regarded as the men's is, which she says is quite new.
Yeah, it's pretty much exactly the same, which is pretty awesome for us. We've, I suppose, not been around as long as what the men's game have, but for us to be progressing just alongside them is pretty special, and I suppose being able to share a lot of the stuff that they get is pretty awesome for us, and for us to actually bring back something to show for all the support we have been getting is pretty awesome.
The buzz around the silver medalist was obvious, even to the Otago Spirit players, and those newer to the game.
It's really good. I know me growing up, I didn't have this opportunity at all, so it's real good to see these younger girls here being able to aspire to people and know that there is a future in women's rugby.
Even Georgia Mason's younger sister Millie had some time off school to come and meet the team.
Yeah, all of the cousins play rugby and all of the adults used to play rugby as well, so yeah.
After the Black Ferns hung out with the aspiring players, the tournament continued, with Otago girls playing St Peters and Gore, while James Hargest played St Kevin's in the playoffs. Rugby New Zealand hopes events like this will strengthen the code at grassroots level and broaden a positive culture behind the game. Daryl Baser, The South Today.
A literary foundation set up in the mid-1990s is hosting a festival at the Invercargill Library. Southland-born author Dan Devon is the focus of the event. He would have been 103 this year. And to celebrate, locals are bringing his works back to life.
A series of events are being held at the Invercargill Library to celebrate the works of Dan Devon. Devon wrote stories about New Zealand life, and in his early career, to succeed, he had to go overseas.
So Dan Devon left Invercargill when he was sort of a teenager, after he finished high school here and went to Otago University, then went to Oxford, where he became the editor of Oxford University Press.
It's widely known Devon was incredibly supportive of New Zealand authors and did all he could to help them excel, and that's something the foundation wants to continue.
So we're trying to do the same thing but at a local level, really trying to support people who want to write, people who have a passion for writing, and get them on their way.
One of Devon's characters is a young boy growing up in Invercargill in the 1930s, and many believe it's an autobiographical account of the author's childhood.
So in terms of the Southland context, those are the stories that people sort of are drawn to because they mention places and people that people from from Invercargill know.
During the festival, there's a chance to hear extracts from Devon's stories, as well as attend lectures, workshops and open mic poetry. Dee Karen, The South Today.
And finally, a celebration of skin art has been held in Oamaru at the annual Tattooed and Proud show. People from all over the South Island attended the event to share inked artworks adorning their bodies. And organisers say it's a great way to bring like-minded people together.
For the last 9 years, on the first Saturday of September, the Tattooed and Proud show gives people a chance to share their body art with a group of like-minded people. The show caters for tattoos of all descriptions, and there's a variety of categories for those taking part to enter.
And we try to keep the smaller stuff with the smaller stuff so that you're not competing against a huge tattoo, which is more impressive and dynamic.
Hamilton believes tattoos are as individual as the people they adorn. He says the industry has undergone changes over the years, but nowadays it's an artistic trade that is seen as mainstream.
It's becoming more acceptable when you get like All Blacks with full sleeves and cricketers and the stuff like that.
Dunedin-based Dark Star model Alice Parsons entered her tattoos into various categories. She estimates the work on her body to be worth around $10,000, representing certain events and people in her life, telling her story. She got her first tattoo at age 16 and says it becomes addictive.
I don't feel the pain from it. I go into this euphoric sort of relaxing sensation where I nearly fall asleep. So yeah, it's just a really, really nice feeling, to be honest.
Around 220 people attended the event, with trophies being awarded in nearly 30 categories. The Tattooed and Proud show looks set to continue for as long as people are using their bodies as a canvas. Dee Karen, The South Today.
And that's all for this edition of Southern Newsweek. Be sure to check us out on Facebook, YouTube and Twitter, or you can keep up with Southern News via our website, channel39.co.nz. I'm Holly Buchanan, thanks for watching.
supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.